Into it.
Excellent. Well, welcome everyone today. Today's our Series 8, so our 8th Lunch and Learn for the year. And we're very excited today because we have Greg Nathan, who is the founder of the Franchise Relationships Institute, and he is a business psychologist, highly regarded globally, as most of you on this call would know, definitely for his research in education and franchising. And just before we got started, Greg explained to me he just won an award, which is quite prestigious actually, as a Psychology Entrepreneur of the Year.
Woo-hoo.
And that means his recognition in franchise. Oh, Rose is clapping, yay.
I think why that's cool is because the psychologists of Australia, and there's about 25,000 of them, are recognising the franchising sector and its significance. I think that's
excellent.
Great.
Well, the attendance today is a testament, especially. So today we're talking about the meaning of franchisee success and how to enhance it, which I think is near and dear to all of us.
Let's get into it.
So let's get into it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Greg.
So we're going to talk about success and success at the network level, success for your franchisees and success for you also. And I want you to start thinking about, you're all successful so far on your journeys. What's helped you in terms of building your capability, your motivation and your performance in your role? So just start thinking about that and we'll come back to that in a moment. Now I'm going to take you on a bit of a journey. We're going to talk a little bit about why Franchise Relationships Institute was started, two of our foundational models, the Franchisee Wheel of Excellence and the Franchisor Wheel of Excellence, the research behind those, and the implications of those models for driving franchisee performance today. I think it's a really important topic. My reading of the market at the moment is this is the most difficult economic situation that we've faced since the financial crisis of 2009. And we're seeing a lot of businesses are struggling at the moment. We might just mute, if we could, yeah. And franchisees are crying out at the moment for support from the franchisors in the areas that matter. And I think this topic of how do we build their capability is extremely vital. We're running a forum on this topic in a couple of weeks' time, and I'm hoping to get you a bit excited about coming along to that also. So let's pop up the slides, Georgia, and I'm going to take you through some concepts now. Great. Now, whenever I'm in a meeting or presenting to a group, I always like to have a vision of what does success look like in terms of our meeting today. So for me, I'd like us to have an enjoyable, interactive, informative session together. I'm going to share some useful ideas on our latest research on this topic of franchisee success. It'd be great if you feel comfortable contributing your thoughts in the chat feed. And in a moment, I'm going to ask you to pop in your thoughts on what's helped you to achieve success. We'll explore some ways to enhance franchisee capability, and I'd like to get you a little excited about the forum that's coming up on August the 16th also. So just a little about us. We've been going for 35 years. We're specialists in the psychology of franchising. We have a mission we take very seriously, which is about fostering profitable partnerships. We work with companies all over the world, and we do a lot of research, primary research, and we convert that research into tools and educational programs. There's just some of the books and the products that we've produced over the years up on the screen, and some of you may have read some of those books like Profitable Partnerships and so on. This slide up here is just some of the companies that we're constantly working with. We do franchisee satisfaction surveys where we get a lot of our data from, and that's we've worked with over 500 different brands around the world, and we're very grateful for the privilege of doing that. Now, I've got a question for everyone on the call, and that is, I want you to think about what has helped you or what helps you to be the best you can be in terms of your motivation, your performance, and your capability. So think about maybe training or books or people. What's helped you? And if you could pop into the chat feed, please. What's helped you to achieve success so far? and let's see what comes through. So don't be shy. You all know where the chat feed is. We'll see who's going to jump in first. Thanks, Rihanna. So Rihanna's mentioned mentors who have helped her. Carla, thanks, Carla, receiving feedback. Suppliers, industry suppliers, networking. Again, we've got a bit of a theme coming in. Claire saying people believing in her, following through on your promises, listening, gathering feedback. We call that a growth mindset. Pam, taking on board that feedback. Thanks, Kelly. Supportive teams. Aligned leadership, great. Some books, some podcasts. Ziggy's been a franchisee. Fantastic, Ziggy. Team collaboration, culture, excellent. Thank you. So there's a bit of a theme coming in there. I can see a strong emphasis on people, on mentors, on leadership, hard work and dedication. Absolutely, Gemma. People again, Chris is saying different people, that diversity of input. Thanks, Chris. And Michael caring. Michael, is that like you caring about people or people caring about you? So Michael's obviously got to focus on the people side.
It's everyone caring for everyone.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Thanks for that. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about how can we enhance the success of our franchisees, and the same principles will apply to them as obviously apply to you. So we might put the slides back up there, Gemma, and I'd like to just introduce you to the first model that we developed several years ago. So we wanted to just, that slide's gone blank there. There we go, great, thank you. So we were interested in, at a network perspective, what drives sustainable success in a franchise network. And we've been operating for 21 years at that stage. We've worked with hundreds of brands. And so we focused in on brands that had been franchising for over 20 years, were growing consistently, had healthy franchisee profitability, healthy franchisor profitability, and they had what we call high ACE mindset scores. Now, the ACE mindset is where a franchisee is an advocate, that's the A, for your network. They would recommend your business to other people. They're committed to staying and reinvesting in their businesses, and they're engaged in your initiatives and programs. They're turning up to meetings and conferences. So, obviously that's a great measure of franchisee satisfaction. And what we found consistently is the franchise networks that were achieving this were focusing on doing 5 things really well, and they're up on the screen there for you. So they've got they understand that green bit to start with. They understand that it's not about selling franchises. You are entering into a 7-year relationship when you bring franchisees into your business. So they're really fussy about who they bring in, quality people. They are constantly mentoring. A mentor is not a person in this context, it's a process. So mentoring is anything that's going to improve franchisee capability and success. So, field support, training, programs to build, encourage franchisee capability. They treat their franchisees with the utmost respect by listening to their input, doing surveys, constantly engaging with them. The purple piece is all about constantly educating their franchisees about what does our brand stand for and how are we different from our competitors? What do we want our reputation to be? And they vigorously defend their reputation in the market by, insisting on quality standards and educating people on the behaviours that they expect from them as part of the group. And the last piece is all about leadership. And they understand that you can't lead through command and control when you're leading a bunch of franchisees. You've got to lead through your own credibility and by influencing them. So that's our wheel of excellence. Now, I just want to tell you a story about franchisee success, if I can. And one of our early clients was a large retail network of bookstores. And I was at their awards evening, and they had one award that, in particular, the Franchisee of the Year award. And there was a big fuss. and let's call him Chris. Chris is brought up onto the stage. Chris has sales of $5 million a year in a network where the average sales are about $750,000, $800,000. Wow. And so Chris wins this award. And I was thinking at the time, I wonder what it is about Chris that he's so successful. What I learned later on is that Chris has a location in the centre of the city. It's the best location in the country. He's got thousands of people walking past his store every day. So he's got a competitive edge against the other franchisees. Chris, much of his sales are wholesale, not retail, and he's constantly out and about selling to schools books at huge discounts. So he's often not in his store. So the service in the store is not fantastic, but he's kind of successful because just the volume of people that just happen to be passing by, and, you know, really good brand as well. And I also discovered that Chris is constantly in dispute with the franchisor. 50% of the leadership's time is spent on dealing with Chris. He's hijacked some of their IP. They've got legal arguments going on with this guy. And I'm thinking, why has he been awarded franchisee of the year? Well, you know, the franchisor is getting 6.5% of Chris's revenue. That's pretty good, isn't it? But does he deserve to be? Is Chris really successful? Not profitable because he's discounting, he's delivering bad customer service, and he's constantly having arguments with the franchisor. Now, I've got a question for everyone here. I want you to think about, how would you define a quality franchisee? So these are people who you're going to bring into your network. What criteria would you use to define whether someone would be a quality franchisee? And could we just get a few thoughts into the chat feed? No right or wrong answer, just your experience. So what do people need in order to be successful? So thanks, Michelle. So they're going to be prepared to follow our systems. What else would you say? You're looking for someone to say that person's successful. Shared values. Thanks, Claire. They've got that hunger, that motivation. Yep. And Claire's also mentioned community-minded. Kelly, it'd be good if you elaborate. Attitude, what about it? So what sort of attitude? Entrepreneurial? Yep. They mentor other people, willing to commit time and effort required. They're going to be there. Yep. They're not absent and just putting in a manager. By the way, we've found through our research that those passive investors, excuse me, are often not as successful. Strong care factor, collaborative, positive attitude, great. So it's not just about driving sales at all costs. I can see you get that. Thanks for that. Now I'm going to show you what our criteria is for success, or our definition. So we've got three things, and this drives a lot of our research. So we say a successful franchisee has to be able to maximise the profit of their territory. Obviously, that includes driving sales, but they've got to be profitable sales, right? We want them to be consistently delivering a fantastic brand experience, so they're constantly training their staff. They understand what is it that our brand's on about, and they are participating constructively. Now, that's the basis from which we then start to investigate what are the attributes people need if they're going to be delivering on this level of success. It's almost like a triple bottom line of success. So it includes attitude, but it also includes financial results as well. So I'm going to just show you some data from a study that we conducted. We were trying to understand what are the attributes and the drivers of the most successful franchisees and what differentiates them from not so successful franchisees. So we did an in-depth study of nearly 2,500 franchisees from 74 networks, and we had a questionnaire the franchisees completed. It had nearly 200 questions, and it looked at their personalities, their background, their family situation, their habits, how many hours they were spending in their businesses, why they entered into the business, and so on. And here's an example of some of the questions they responded to, where they responded, is this like me or not like me, on a 7-point rating scale? And these questions are looking at optimism, commercial acumen, family and social support, and brand passion. But there was over 100 of these items that they were responding to. We then looked at their actual performance. So we got from the franchisor how they were going financially, how well they were delivering on the client experience, and how constructively they were participating. You know, did they have that ACE mindset? And we looked at the relationship between them, and we found out some really interesting stuff. So one aspect of the analysis is we looked at 16 attributes that through prior research we thought would make a difference to someone's performance. So that horizontal line is the average level of an attribute that the 2,500 people had. And we wanted to know, did the successful people have more of these attributes or less of these attributes compared to the unsuccessful people, which is the red line. And here's what we discovered. So you'll see, yes, that the successful people had more brand passion, they had better family and social support, they had a more optimistic or positive outlook, they were good at sales, they were proactive, and so on and so forth. Now, based on this research and other data that we were able to collect, we started to build a model. Now, here's an example of looking at the family and social support just through a different lens. So we categorize people from the top 20% is a lot of family and social support, through to the bottom 20% had low family and social support. And that vertical axis is the level of success or the performance of their businesses based on financial metrics, delivery of the customer experience, and constructive participation. And what you see there is this beautiful correlation. So there's a 12 percentage point difference between franchisees who have high family and social support and low family and social support. That's a lot to the performance of a business. That's just an example of what we discovered there. Now, coming back to our franchisor wheel of excellence, you can see the implications of this for the top two, which is about who are we going to bring into the network and what attributes should we be working on developing in these people. And out of that, we built another model, which we call the franchisee wheel of excellence, which is there in front of you on the screen. So you see it's got 5 pieces, and I'll explain those pieces to you in more detail. But in essence, the build supporters is being able to build a network of people around you who encourage you and who want you to win. Now, the Olympics are on at the moment, and there's always a home ground advantage. And it's interesting how France is winning more medals than they normally do. So when you've got that home ground advantage, you've got your people really barracking for you and wanting you to win, it does make a difference to your support. I'm going to ask you shortly about what groups of people do you think franchisees should be cultivating to help them to win. Engage with the brand is all about whether they understand what the brand's on about, they're participating constructively with the franchisor team and so on. Driving growth is about proactivity. It's not just about sales growth. It's about growing themselves as entrepreneurs and growing their team's capability as well. Maintaining personal vitality, never been more important than at the moment. And we're seeing through our research a real decline in mental health and physical health of people as they're suffering from a lot of stress. And this is probably more important than it's ever been. And Master What Matters is all about working on the business. So I hope that makes sense to you and it's resonating with you. And so what we found is that highly successful franchisees are really focusing on these 5 pieces. So let's come back to our franchisor wheel of excellence. We say successful franchisors are mentoring their franchisees to improve their capability, their performance, and their motivation. And I want to ask you, what do you do in your networks that is helping to develop franchisee motivation, capability, and performance? So what are the activities, the initiatives, the types of support that you're providing? So let's hear from you. And then I'll provide you with a bit of a summary on what I think is important. So what have we got coming in? So thanks, Michelle. Training days, conferences, Yeah, buddy systems,
system.
extremely powerful, Pam. Excellent. What else have we got coming in there? What are you doing that's helping to drive franchisee capability? Gemma's mentioned continuous support. What type of support, Gemma? What does that look like? Listening to their concerns? Yep. Fantastic. What else? Think a bit outside the box as well. Some of the things that you think may be making a difference there. Forums. Yep. Thanks, Tim. P&L reviews. Yeah, the metrics, health checks. Coaching. Great to see that word come out, Claire. Ringing the bell for sales success. Michelle's talking about getting them involved in BNI. Yep, for networking and referral. That's building a support network, isn't it? And one-on-ones. Fantastic. So look, here's what some of the things that I think really make a difference. So the first one, it's been mentioned by many of you, conferences and meetings where they can feed off each other and share their great ideas. They come away from those meetings and conferences really motivated. We've got tools and systems to improve productivity, efficiency. It could be labour, rostering systems. It could be other systems to help them structure their business as well. We've got training, upgrading their knowledge and skills. There could be online portals and things they've got access to keep them informed. Coaching, which often comes from the field consultants on helping them to set goals and helping them to set targets to grow themselves and their businesses. We've got encouragement to stay motivated. Reward and recognition can really bring the best out in people. And we've got benchmarking, and Tim was mentioning that earlier, dashboards. Performance groups are when franchisees are coming together usually every 3 months and they share their KPIs with each other, and they're like an external advisory board. That's very powerful. Now, I want to focus in on coaching for a moment because I think this is the most powerful way, if we're particularly in the current environment, to ensure that our franchisees are getting the support and building the capability that they need to navigate these difficult times. Now, we use a model of coaching called solution-focused coaching, and I'll just show, you might want to actually draw this on a piece of paper. So there's 4 types of conversations that will typically occur if you're trying to help someone. Now, you could be telling them what they should be doing. That's not really coaching. It's just directing. You could be telling them what their problem is. And one of the complaints we get from franchisees is the field managers come in and they're always criticising us. You know, this is not good enough and you need to do this and so on. That's not very motivating. That's not coaching. You could be diagnosing, asking them what the problem is, but sometimes you can get dug into a hole and they start to make all these excuses. Oh, this is a problem and that's a problem. And these are all the barriers that are preventing me from succeeding. The most powerful quadrant to operate is in the top right quadrant. There's been some very interesting research from the University of New South Wales. They've got a whole coaching institute there, and they've been videotaping conversations. And what they find is when the conversation moves up into that top right quadrant where you're asking powerful questions that are future focused and solution focused, that's when you get the breakthroughs. And here's a model that we use. It's a 4-step model for coaching franchisees for performance. So firstly, we've got to find out what is it they want to improve on and why do they want to improve on that? It's got to be meaningful to them. What would be the benefit to them of improving in these areas? Then we help them visualize what would success look like. What are the KPIs that would change? What are the behaviours that would change? How would they be feeling? So you need to help the franchisee paint a picture of success. And that's really sports. If we're talking about the Olympics, this is what all the winners are doing constantly in any elite activity. They're constantly visualising. One of my team, Rihanna, is very interested, who's on the call, in sports psychology. And this is what helps people perform at their best, visualising what does success look like. We're going to talk about that in a moment. And then What actions do you need to take to get started? And how can I support you? That's coaching. And that's what we don't see enough of. So this forum that we're going to be having in a couple of weeks, we're just going to focus on how can we coach franchisees for success in the areas that matter. So I hope that's making sense to you. So let's come back to our Wheel of Excellence. And we're going to now go on a bit of a journey around the wheel. And I'm going to tease out what are the specific capabilities that I think, based on our research, that you should be focusing on with your franchisees to improve their success. Now, remember, we say success is that you are profitable, that you are delivering a great customer experience, and you are enjoying being part of the network and are constructively engaging with the field managers, with the head office people, and so on, and your peers. Now, let's start with build supporters. So, a supporter is any group or any person who wants the franchisee to succeed and is going to go out of their way to do little favors and help them. So could you pop into the chat feed, what are some of the groups that you think are important or could be important to a franchisee's success? There's about 10 of them. Family, brilliant, Sarah, often missed. If the family goes negative, you're on a slippery slope. You can't sustain the motivation and the effort if your family's not behind you. Other franchisees, thanks, Michelle. What other groups could be important? Think about retailing, those that have got shops and leases and are in shopping centres. Lawyers, oh, Claire. Would Claire be a lawyer? No. Lawyers can be helpful, yes, and it's helpful to have a good lawyer on your side. External advisors, yes. Many high-performing franchisees have coaches external to the group. Other advisors, accountants, new business sales department, yep. Helping you build, yep. That would be from the franchisor team, Ziggy. Suppliers, yep. A supplier that goes out of their way to drop in that extra delivery or give you extra discount. The marketing team, great, Gemma. Mentors, thanks, Sarah. Think about landlords, shopping centre, management. If they're on your side, what they can do to help you. Field manager, brilliant, Rihanna. Buying groups, yep. So you can see there's a whole range of groups that clever franchisees are cultivating. Their own staff, having key management. I've got a great team of people who are my supporters and are always going that extra little bit. I'm very grateful for their support. So, question. How are we going to coach our franchisees? We know that franchisees who have a support network around them are more successful. What can we do? So here's a few thought starters. We can help them to have a peer support network. So maybe through some of the, you might have breakfast meetings with some of your franchisees where you're facilitating them, inviting their families to come along to the conferences and getting the families engaged. Collaborating with peers, sharing data, helping them on how to complain effectively. Franchisees need to be taught how to come up with if they've got a problem, what do they want? Why do they want it? And who should they bring it up with in a constructive way? And how to communicate clearly and pleasantly. We've got to train our franchisees in how to do this stuff. You can't just assume they know it. Making sense? So these are things we take for granted. Otherwise, sometimes we get situations where we're at loggerheads with a franchisee and we've never actually agreed, how are we going to work together? And what do you need from me? And what do I need from you? It's a two-way street. Now let's talk about engaging with the brand. So we know that successful franchisees, I showed you that chart, franchisees with high levels of brand passion are 32% happier generally with their business, by the way. This is what we also discovered through our research. So how do we coach them to engage with brand initiatives and constructively with the franchisor team? So have you had those conversations where you're educating them in how to even be well prepared for a field visit so they get the most out of the field visit? You get sometimes franchisees starting to get negative on the online forums. Do you train them and have guidelines in what's appropriate and what's not appropriate to put online and why? Have you shown them how to engage constructively with suppliers and to make the most out of those supplier relationships? Rihanna popped in earlier, having supplier support can be huge, like Connie Malta. And are we educating them on what a great customer experience looks like and why we need them to maintain these certain standards? We just don't want them to spend money for the sake of it. We want clean stores, good signage, refurbishment of their businesses to deliver that great customer experience. So there's a few thoughts. And are you putting enough effort into educating your franchisees and coaching your franchisees in how to engage with the brand? Let's talk about drive growth. Growth mindset is all about striving to improve rather than prove ourselves. So what are we doing to cultivate a growth mindset in our franchisees? So have we explained to them how to seek feedback? Often when people get feedback, when it's not asked for, it's seen as criticism. And someone put in the chat feed earlier, the thing that's helped them to achieve success is feedback. There's two questions that we would encourage you to be asking of your franchisees and them to be asking of you. What am I doing that's working well? And what do I need to do to improve and to get better? So that's teaching them how to seek feedback in a constructive way. Engaging with changes that are designed. Have you got a process for getting your franchisees engaged in new initiatives? Driving sales. Do they have a local area sales plan? This is the lowest area of competence we see with field consultants on how to show franchisees on how to grow their local sales, getting involved in the local communities. This came up earlier in some of your comments, and helping them to create a performance-driven culture where their staff are on fire. They love the brand, they understand what's expected of them, and they're investing in the professional development of their team. So what are we doing to coach our franchisees in these areas and others? Personal vitality. I know many of you have started running sessions at your conferences on resilience and how to stay positive in the face of uncertainty and stress. So are we educating our franchisees in the habits that are going to help them to maintain good health and well-being, strategies on coping with stress? The coping with stress scores that we're seeing through our research are the lowest they've ever been. So franchisees are really buckling at the moment under the financial and staffing pressures and supplier and supply chain issues and so on. Helping them to maintain an optimistic outlook. What does that look like? There are techniques you can teach people on how to be more solution focused. And, I showed you the solution focused matrix, and having those conversations with them where they're focusing on the future and what they want, not on the past and what happened 3 years ago. So are we doing enough to keep them in the right frame of mind? And finally, mastering what matters. Yeah. So how are we coaching them to work on the business so they're going to protect their future profitability, reviewing business plans, getting them to put in place systems that are going to prevent theft and to keep their gross profit and their cost of goods in a healthy state. Keeping up to date with technology. Are we training them? This is all moving at a rapid rate, and helping them to put in place a succession plan to reinvent themselves, grow themselves, or maybe even, what's their succession plan for selling the business? So there's our 5 pieces. And at this point, I just want to mention, in 2 weeks' time, we're getting together the top brands, and we invite you all to come along to this, to explore all these attributes and these capability areas, and how can we coach franchisees to be stronger in these areas. And I just can't reiterate again, at the moment, this is the most important thing we need to be focusing on, which is why we're running this event. And you can see some of the brands that have registered for the event to date. And if you want to mix with some of these brands, we'd encourage you to register for that. And I'll pop up. if you're interested, our website is franchiserelationships.com. You can find out more about that. Oh, it's in the chat feed. Thank you. Great. So just to wind up, we've got this cycle of success. So I've talked about we've got to define what success looks like. We've got to identify the capabilities that drive it. We've got to coach for improvement. But I haven't mentioned yet, how do we measure these capabilities and how do we monitor progress? So we've been working on a system whereby you can rate your franchisees using what we call a behaviourally anchored rating scale. So down the bottom there, you'll see 3 descriptions of 3 different levels of competence on whether the franchisee is cultivating a network of people who are supportive of the business. So you can rate them and start to measure this stuff. And we've also got ways of asking questions of the franchisees so you get the information you need to make these ratings. Here's another one about, are they participating constructively? How do you rate this objectively? Well, we've developed this system on how to do that. And there's some tips on things that you would look for to make an accurate rating. And finally, here's one around whether they've got the growth mindset that we talked about. So on the left, you've got someone who's reluctant, they're skeptical, they're a know-all, through to the right, someone who's enjoying learning, they're reading, they're doing courses. And again, you can ask them those questions to find out the extent to which they're doing that stuff. And then we can convert that into metrics. So we can convert these soft measures into hard measures. And so I would suggest these are lead indicators of success. And so this product, we call it the Franchise Lab Mentor, and very excited. We're about to launch that onto the market now. So in conclusion, time's up. We've got our cycle of success up there about how do we grow franchisee capability. And if this is what we've set out to achieve today, I hope we've been able to deliver on that. My watch says 6 minutes to go. No?
Nope.
All right, okay. No?
Yeah, 6 minutes.
6 minutes to go.
Got a Q&A.
Oh, Q&A, okay. All right, so I hope we've been able to deliver on that, the vision for today. And again, if you're interested in coming along to the forum, it's up in Brisbane. We thought that Brisbane needs an event because all the events have been in Sydney and Melbourne. So invite you to come along to that.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you very much. That was excellent and very interesting, like just the sustainable success, the qualities of a franchisee. Loved all of it. Loved all of it. So Greg has spoken the most out of any Lunch and Learn we've had, but he's also had the most participants, over 50 people jumping in. So who's got some questions?
That's what we got there.
Let's throw it out. Yeah, let's see everybody's faces.
My contact details, if someone from my team could put my email in the chat feed, you can contact me, Paul.
Yeah.
Happy. So let's hear some questions.
Yeah. Who's got some quick questions of Greg?
You can unmute yourself.
You can unmute.
And you're going to be embarrassed if they don't have any questions because you cut me short. So what do we got? And as we say, no such thing as a dumb question.
That's right. Is everybody thinking about a question? It looks like they're thinking.
That's all right.
Or take yourself off mute and just ask the question.
So it might be on some of the research we've done or why we've done certain things or why I've chosen certain things. So Michelle?
Oh, yeah.
We ask for permission.
Yeah, look, that's great, Michelle. Always, before you're giving someone feedback or having sharing an idea with someone, it's a good idea to always ask for permission. And the way I normally set it up is, hey, I've got a thought that I think could be helpful here. Would it be okay if I shared that with you? When you ask for permission, you're looking for a yes, people's mind opens up, and then you can give that suggestion. So I wasn't suggesting to never tell people what to do, but if you've got an idea, it's always good to just check whether they're ready to receive it. Now, once they've said yes, it's like, you can plop that idea in and it's more likely to be received. If you just go in with lots of ideas without checking if it's okay first, it's a bit like a spaceship coming into Earth and bouncing off the atmosphere. You won't get in. So great question, Michelle. And sometimes we've really got to have those conversations. If a franchisee is doing something that's damaging their business or damaging the reputation, you need to have that conversation. But how we set that up is important. So you need to create, there's a lot of talk at the moment about psychological safety, an environment where the franchisee feels that they're not going to be unfairly criticised, but you're coming in with their best interests in mind. And sometimes you need to state that. I've got this feedback I want to share with you, or these thoughts I want to share with you because I care about you, I care about your success. What else? Chris, you got a question?
Yeah, well, it's more just a follow-on, actually, because one of the things that I've found, especially with commercial cleaning and English second language, is if I can get across the message that the franchisor is only going to be as successful as the franchisee, so we're in this together to build a healthy relationship, a healthy partnership, that seems to really get their engagement in the brand.
Yes.
And then from there you can sort of roll it out a bit more and address any issues and get some understanding of what's going on. So I think that's a really important thing.
Yeah, Chris, I totally agree with you. The thing is, we've got to walk the proverbial talk. And so our actions are more important than what we say. Our research shows that the biggest driver of mistrust in franchise networks, the way we measure this is we ask the franchisees, and we've got over 20,000 survey responses we've analysed. Do you believe the franchisor team is trustworthy in its dealings with the franchisees? And if they say no, we circle back and we say, hey, can you just elaborate on why you don't believe the franchisor team is trustworthy? And the biggest driver of that is the franchisor team is being self-serving in its decisions. It's making decisions that benefit it and not the franchisees. So it's unfair. So I think there's a real lesson in that. What else?
One more, last one.
Pam, what key advice would you give to a new franchisee coming into the system to ensure they get the most out of their franchisor? Look, Pam, this may sound very self-serving, but there's a book called Profitable Partnerships. And I can see there's a few people.
That's a great ending.
But I wrote that book to educate franchisees on how to get the most out of the franchise relationship. And we've sold over 250,000 copies around the world just through word of mouth. So many of our clients give a copy of that book to their franchisees and then they discuss what's in it because it explains the journey. And so that would be something practical I'd recommend.
Yeah, excellent. And is Rose snuck one in?
Yeah, Rose, lovely, love that question. So Rose has said, how do we re-engage franchisees who are disengaged? Rose, two things. You've got to have faith that it's possible. So never give up is the first thing, because sometimes we label people, oh, they're just crazy or they're just negative or they're difficult, and that's going to get in the way. So people behave through their own logic. So if someone looks like they're behaving badly, there's a reason for it. We need to understand what that is. So go with that sense of curiosity to really understand what's on your mind. And then I would have a quality conversation and say, I've been wanting to talk with you. You seem to be disengaged, or describe some behaviour you've observed objectively, and just say, I just want to understand what's on your mind. And just a lot of paraphrasing and listening. And what I've found in 9 cases out of 10, if you genuinely listen, paraphrase, show empathy, you will get a breakthrough. And that's the free stage in the franchise relationship. That moves from free to see, where we're seeing each other's perspective, to we're back in it together.
Yeah. I'm just conscious of time, but Gordon's got one question there.
Support networks. How do you deal with situations where the franchisee support network is opinion to the franchisor? Yeah, well, you need to identify, Gordon, who is giving the advice, and perhaps have conversations one-on-one to find out, hey, why are you saying this like when we're saying that? But I think you need to have those conversations in a respectful manner but just let them know you're onto it. And it's not acceptable if they're giving misleading advice to franchisees and creating a sort of a divide in the group. You need to be in there proactively giving the truth, and that this is not helpful. And how would you like to see them behaving in future?
All right.
Thanks, Gordon.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So thanks to everyone. We've gone a little bit over time, but all good. Great conversations. So next Lunch and Learn is coming up on
Why is that
Wednesday.
1 to 1:15 and I only got till 1?
It's typo.
It's a typo.
You see, this is
You picked up
fairness
on
in
the typo.
action.
Yeah. Yep. So no, 12:15 to 1 sharp. Next Lunch and Learn is hosted by Seek Business, and Dennis is on the call today. Hi, Dennis. And they're going to talk about staying ahead of the curve. All the marketplace insights that go with that. So thank you to everybody. Thank you to Greg, more importantly. And yeah, this was a success. Over 50 people joined.
I'm living the dream. This is what we do. Thanks,
Brilliant.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
See ya.
That's great. Yes.
Yep. Pipe in. Say
Bye.
goodbye.
Say goodbye.
Thanks, Michelle.